Kiya Podcast would like to acknowledge that this episode was recorded on Wajak land of the Noongar people. We recognise our First Nations people as the traditional custodians of the land, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and future.
Kiya Wanji, hello and welcome to the Kiya Podcast Show. As always, I am your host, Izzy, and it is a pleasure to have you. If you're a new listener, I tell you what, this is one of the best episodes. This is probably not one of the best, this is the best episode that you could possibly be starting your Kiya Podcast journey on. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. As you know, our Totem Clothing is our brand sponsor today, so I'd like to give Totem a shout out. And also a special mention to their new stock that's in. As you see, I'm representing the hat. So Totem is a premium clothing of culture and spirit. It's a First Nations owned design brand, embodied and hand printed here in Western Australia. So big shout out to them and welcome on board to Totem for our sponsors. If any brands out there are wanting to work with us or look into getting involved with us, then please do. You know how to contact us via our socials, YouTube, Spotify, or any other links that should be on there. So I am very blessed because on this podcast, if you've been on our journey throughout season 1, I've had some amazing people on here, people that I've looked up to, people that have mentored me, and also made some new connections. And here on season 2, this is the second episode of season 2. So I am extremely blessed because not only today do I have a mentor, and not only in the basketball world but in the personal world as well, and I'm very honoured to call our guest today a very close friend of mine, someone that I rely heavily on, that is always truthful with me, have told me some of the harsh truths that sometimes maybe I didn't want to hear but I needed to hear, or maybe told me some things that I wasn't ready for but that I needed to prepare for. And I'm extremely honoured to call this man a mentor, a very close friend. Please welcome none other than Ricky Grace. Ricky, how you doing?
I'm good.
Thank you for coming on.
Good. This is my first ever podcast. I'm doing it for you, Izzy. Have a lot of people that have actually asked for me to do podcasts, so yeah, this one's for you, brother.
Yeah, it's a huge honor because obviously I got to know you in the basketball world first as a coach, and then we got to build that relationship, and I got to find out about we're going to highlight some of the amazing things that you do in the community as the podcast goes on. But yeah, we're extremely lucky. This is an exclusive our very first podcast first.
Yeah, well, what drew me to you, Izzy, was a lot of you reminded me a lot of me. Just a young black man that's navigating his way through the real world, and someone that's extremely intelligent, extremely motivated, almost as good looking as I was at that age.
Almost. I've got the hat on. I don't have my flat top yet. I don't have my flat top.
But yeah, extremely motivated, very good sports person, very community conscious. That's what drew me to you, and I've been doing a lot of work in the indigenous space, and that's when I sort of started working with you to work together in the indigenous space to bring education programs throughout Western Australia. So because of all of that, that's why I decided to do this with you.
Yeah, and that's huge. That's something that I don't think is highlighted a lot of yourself. Like when it comes with the conversation of Ricky Grace, it's always, and right to it, the love for basketball and the passion for basketball, the name that you've made for yourself in the basketball world is huge. But I think that's also what separates this podcast episode from a lot of the media stuff you would have done throughout the years, is because I wanted to highlight the cultural involvement, like the name that you've made for yourself, in the community, and by doing the things that no one sees.
Yeah, I don't beat my chest.
This is my job. This is my job today.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, but I've never sort of beat my chest with all the things I've done to help people, because I just love helping people. I feel more comfortable helping others than someone helping me. So it's something that I've always done. My mom was a nurse, and she was always looking after people. She was always looking after people's well-being. She's always on the phone. She's 82 years old. People still call her to this day because she helps people. She's a comforter. She's a nurturer. And I think I got those traits. And those traits helped me in basketball. I used to lead the league in assists. That's helping people. So for me, I just still see the world as half full. Even when you get kicked in the face, you know, I get up and just continue to believe that good will win over evil. And that's something that I try and promote. You know, my last name is Grace. So
act accordingly. So you act accordingly.
Well, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. You know, it's in my heart. So this is something that I've lived for over 30 years. You know, I did it for the Wildcats in the Hall of Fame. For that, I did it in the Aboriginal space. I have an Order of Australia for the work I've done in the Aboriginal space. So now I'm enjoying Grace basketball, where I work with not only the indigenous culture, but all cultures, you know, because basketball is such an international sport. So I'm really enjoying sort of this last part of my career.
Yep. Just entering into the coaching. Did you always think you was going to go into that sort of? I mean, you're a point guard. Point guards make you know. Sorry to anyone that's listening. That's a coach and not a point guard. But in my own opinion, you can tell me if I'm wrong. But point guards make the greatest coaches. They see the game. They read the game.
Well, point guards see. Yes, I tend to agree. Because when point guards play the game, they're always looking to. They're thinking of the whole floor. They're thinking of the two. You know, when I played, I had to make sure Mike Ellis was happy. I had to make sure Andrew Vlahoff was happy. I had to make sure Scott Fisher was happy. And I had to make sure James Crawford was fed. So I had to feed all the horses. So you got to have a special mentality of looking after others first. And that came natural to me. So I always try to put everyone in their best positions to succeed. That's just the way I always played. And I love to win, and I hate to freaking lose. So I'm a competitor. I'm going to do more research than anybody did. I'm going to prepare myself better than anybody did, and I'm going to make it look easy. You know, because I didn't want people to know how hard I worked, how much I prepared. I knew exactly where James Crawford wanted the ball, exactly where Scott Fisher wanted the ball, exactly where Andrew Vlahoff wanted the ball, exactly where Mike Ellis wanted the ball. So I was that person that always was looking after, you know, always thinking of other people. So coaching is natural because you're looking after other people. You know, so for me, it's something natural. I enjoy it. It keeps me young. You know, working with young people.
And you love the game. I noticed that about you. You don't coach just for the sake of coaching, or you know, we had an honour playing against each other a couple of times in Indigenous carnivals and things like that. But something about you is you love the game of basketball, whether it's coaching in here on the court with kids, or whether it's going to watch basketball or be involved with basketball. You love the game.
It's such a beautiful game. I mean, it brings people together. It's a community where people come together, and synergy is better than energy. And if everyone's getting about 80% of their potential, well, then you got an amazing team. But if you just got one person getting 100% of their potential, you probably got about 6 others on 50% of their potential. So it's a beautiful game. What you put into it, you get out. You learn how to deal with wins, how to deal with losses. In my case, you learn how to deal with public criticism. You learn how to deal with haters. You learn how to deal with, dare I say, distractions, whatever that may be.
However they come along.
However they come, good, bad, small, large, whatever. So basketball teaches you a lot. And then even if you don't want to play professionally, you can play socially. You know, so it's a great social outlet, and it's just in a beautiful place. So I used to sleep with my basketball when I was little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard this. I
loved it that much. I can still smell the leather of that basketball. You know, it's just, oh my God, I love it. There's something about it. It's maybe I'm a little weird, but I used to sleep with that basketball because it was the only thing I trusted. My mom and dad divorced when I was 9, and that really affected me as a kid, and I was actually embarrassed by it. You know, the whole community knew, and the whole school knew, and I remember the only thing that I trusted was the basketball. So I fell in love with it from about 8, 9 years old, and been in love with it ever since.
Yep. And that was see, for me, it was more like a control thing. It was like that's where you know what you're doing. When you're on the court, you know, you kind of know the outcomes. You know what you're capable with what you're doing, and it's just a place of peace. Every time you hear that first douche of the basketball, it's a place of peace, isn't it?
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. So you came over here in 1990, and you had a wonderful, stellar career, 15 years in the NBL. Over here, and what kind of got you to stay? Because you know, you see a lot of guys now come to NBL, and obviously now is a little bit different. You've got social media, and you know, everyone's talking about everything, every little bit of the personal life. But you came over here in 1990, and could you have imagined when you came over here the type of career that you was going to have?
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew I was good. And I had a vision. So a lot of players in basketball, they chase the money. They go here, they go to Europe, they go to Philippines, they go to Spain, they travel around the world. But for me, I wanted to embed myself into a community. And Perth appeared to be the perfect community because when I got here, I was lucky enough to already have a great nucleus of a team, and I was sort of that last piece of the puzzle, so it probably looked like I was the reason, but it was perfect timing.
It was a perfect piece.
I was that last sort of slice of that pizza that they needed to complete. So for me, I didn't want to just, I had the chance to go back and maybe try it in NBA as well, but to be frank, the money I was making here was similar. And I was winning championships, but I wanted to travel around and just make an impact on the community. And it seemed like Perth was a place that I could do that. So I got my master's degree from Notre Dame University. So I have a master's in education. I did that while I was playing for the Wildcats. And so I wanted to stay somewhere for a while. I bought and sold 3, 4, 5 houses. So I had a vision of the route I wanted to take, and I just executed that vision.
And that love for community, because throughout your career and then post-career, you're heavily involved with, you know, the Indigenous community, well, with community in general. Like I see you out on the court today, and you give every single player that one-on-one attention. You give every time at any one of your camps, you're giving their coaches, like you said, as a point guard, you're making sure this person's 100% or this person's giving, or noticing that. And you do the same with your coaches throughout your holiday camps, throughout the holiday clinics that you do. How has that have you just naturally done that, or did you learn to do that through basketball, through your community involvement?
I'm from Dallas, Texas. And the biggest sport in Texas is gridiron, football. The Dallas Cowboys.
Big football
the
state.
Dallas Cowboys. So I was a kid, man. I grew up, I loved the Dallas.
Do you still say that out loud now? Do you still say your love for Dallas Cowboys now?
Right I do. How about them Cowboys? Come on now. How about them Cowboys? So when I was a kid, you know, obviously I loved the Dallas Cowboys. So one day I was at this little chicken shack in South Dallas. That's where I'm from, South Dallas. You know, all black people live south of the tracks. They're always south. Okay, so we lived on the last street in South Dallas. So that tells you where I grew up. But I was in this chicken shack, and this Dallas Cowboy named Preston Pearson walked in the chicken shack. And I recognized him immediately, and I looked at Preston. Preston looked at me, and he did me like that, right? That's all I needed. That's all I needed. I told my friends, I met Preston Pearson. I stretched it a little bit. You know, I said, we had a good little chat. We had a good little chat. They don't know that much. I told them I met Preston Pearson, and I felt 10 feet tall. And all he did was this. That's all he did. He acknowledged me. So for me, I guess when I started to get a bit of profile and people started to look up to me, well, I made sure that if somebody sort of looked at me and wanted to acknowledge me, then I acknowledged them back. So I always make sure that I have time for people, just to have a little conversation, you know. So that's just something that impacted me, and something that for me, I knew how important that is sometimes. And then if I feel led to have a conversation with that person, well, then I will.
Yeah, that's it. And I love that you mentioned that, because I have a couple, people that I'm close with that maybe play AFL, or pretty high profile people, and if we go to the shopping centre, I don't want to go in here, I don't want to get noticed, or if they stop and talk afterwards, they're like, I didn't want to talk to that person anymore, and they kind of play it off. But it's like, hey, this isn't going to last, forever, and this is something to be proud of. I think someone who does it really well is Arthur Jones, plays for Western Bulldogs now. Whilst we're in Melbourne, getting stopped by every second person wanted to stop for a photo, and he just gave them all the time, all the conversation that they wanted, anything that he could give them. And that's something, very special that you see from people with good hearts.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing. And if you don't want to deal with it, well, don't go out. So, and sometimes I don't want to deal with it, so I don't go out, and it's not as crazy as it was in the 90s anyway, now I got a beard. I actually needed to shave for this podcast. I'm sorry.
Don't worry, we'll.
Okay. You gonna hook me up? You gonna hook me up with a little AI or whatever?
That might be on the next episode. We'll go to a barbershop.
Okay, but you do have my good side.
You do have the good side. I thought you said both was your good side.
Hey, don't tell everybody everything. See, now we get on live and you start telling all my secrets, man. Come on, bro.
No, one thing that really stood out to me about yourself and about your character and about your cultural awareness, because a lot of people think, if you're black, you instantly get another black person's culture. That's not always the case. You definitely can relate. You definitely can, sympathize, empathize, celebrate to that sort of person. And we're always drawn to each other.
Yep.
But one thing that extremely stood out, I don't know if you remember this, but we was in not Nullagine, before Nullagine.
Marble Bar?
Marble Bar.
Oh, yeah, in the era.
Marble Bar. We was in Marble Bar. As soon as we got to the town, this was my very first Up For It camp. Now, Up For It has been going for
20 years.
20 years. Just on 20 years now, and there's been every year, even a couple times a year, reoccurring, is some clinics and mentorship that you do with the kids out in the Pilbara. Now, we got into town. The very first thing you did is we dropped all our stuff off, and you took me straight to Ashburton? Ashburton, to the Aboriginal corporation there, to some of the local mob there. They already knew you already had a relationship, but you said, "Hi, I'm Ricky." "Oh, yeah, we know Ricky. Yep, this is Isaiah. He's a Nyungar man from Perth, and we'll be doing some basketball stuff. Isaiah will be doing some cultural stuff. Is that okay? And I just wanted to introduce you guys." And that is our whole premise with cultural awareness training that we do for some of the biggest corporations in the world. Don't do that stuff.
Yep.
They don't have that in their genealogy or in their good habits, and that's something that stood out to me straight away. And that's when I was like, I'm sticking with this guy.
Yeah. Well, I learned that. I mean, that I learned from the Aboriginal culture. We do have a lot of similarities, but we have some differences too. So African Americans, we don't have a land, we don't have a home. We were displaced. So the Aboriginal culture, you have your land. I mean, you've had to fight for it, and you still have to fight for it. But so that's a small difference. But I've learned that to be culturally respectful, and just to be mindful and respectful of the Aboriginal culture, because this is your country. So I've really enjoyed that. But for me, I think, and yes, I've been going to those communities 20 years straight. And some of those years I was not funded to go to those communities. That's what I was
just about to mention. Some of them are out of pocket.
But, I still have gone to, Port Hedland, Yandiara, Marble Bar, Nullagine, Jigalong, You know, all those places for 20 years straight. You know, I have not missed a year. And I have not missed a year where we've brought kids from those Aboriginal communities to Perth. People don't know that. You know, I don't give a shit whether people know or not, because I don't do it for other people. I do it for those kids in those communities, because for me, education is the key. So in order to break any cycle, to me, it's improved health and improved education. And if you improve your education, well, then you'll know more about how to improve your health. So for me, this program that I've been promoting for the last 20 years in these communities is just coming to school. So you mentioned Up For It program. So we asked the kids, are they up for it? And three things you got to do to be up for it. You got to come to school over 80% of the time. You got to do your best. Just try.
Just do your best.
Just do your best. Just do your best. And don't get in any major trouble. You know.
So there's room for a little bit. Like,
hey, you gotta be a little wrong. Ain't nobody perfect, bro.
But exactly.
Ain't nobody perfect. I tell my kids if they do half of what I did, I'd kill them. Okay, so you know it ain't. You know you gotta have a little margin for error. So yeah, if you just come to school, don't get in any major trouble, and do your best, you will succeed in life. You will succeed in life. You know, if you just get up every day. Do your best and don't get into major trouble. If you create those habits as a young person, I believe you will be successful. So we've been doing that, promoting it. Fortescue Group has been supporting it for most 18, 20, out of those years. We've been able to get some successful employees. I just came back. You were over in Europe, so you weren't able to go on the last trip. But when we just went out there, we were able to gain 3 new successful applicants for employees from that country, from that land. So that's those sort of things, you know, I'm really proud of.
Yeah, it's amazing connections. Like the last one I was on, one of the workers was from, you know, my hometown down here, and we happened to be related. But then I think the main stood out was one of the teaching assistants used to be one of the students.
That's right.
And she came up to you and said, and you remembered her, she remembered you. She was one of the students, and now she's giving back to the program. 100%. And I remember you turned to Marcus Timmons, and you said, see Marcus, this is why we do this shit. Sorry, the swear button, bang, this is why. But this is why we do what we do. Now you've got a young leader that you've nurtured,
100%.
Giving back to future young leaders that 100%. You are now in the process of nurturing, and that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about, man. It's just about, you know, getting up, going to work, doing your best, and not getting in any major trouble. You know, if you do that, there's a lot of people out there that'll help you too, you know. And I guess for me, you know, I grew up my mom and dad divorced when I was 9. And then my mom worked 2 jobs. So I was raised by the streets. I was raised by the streets. And luckily they built this rec center near my home when I was about 12. And there was a guy at the rec center, his name was Mr. O'Neill. Well, he was sort of a mentor for me because I didn't have a father figure. So, so that mentor really made a difference in my life. So to have so what I wanted to do once I had a profile was to, I guess, have mentoring programs for people like me that are searching for something and they don't have anybody to listen to. So for me, I've created mentoring programs that I can mentor people, or I can mentor people on how to mentor people, or I can coach people on how to coach. So when I'm teaching coaches how to coach, I'm not teaching them how to coach basketball. I'm teaching them how to get the best out of that person. You know, so that's what I'm trying to do now through Grace Basketball, is to continue that mentoring and to continue coaching the coaches and mentoring mentors.
That's right. That's right. And speaking of Grace Basketball, that's been on quite of a journey, and it's been full on the last 3 years, but it's been on a journey obviously longer than that, or putting the pieces together for that. How has that journey been, transitioning into that workspace of basketball, now becoming like overseeing everything? You've got your domestic competition, holiday camps. I know the domestic competition, you've got finals coming up, I believe.
Yes, yep. So we're just finishing thanks for the plug.
Yeah.
We're just finishing our first season of Grace basketball. We're calling it the G League.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Very happy. It's one thing I learned too, is you must surround yourself with good people. So I've surrounded myself with good people in Grace basketball that actually are very good in the administration and management side of things. So it's been a very smooth season, and it's catered not to the elite, but it's catered to those that, we're sitting here in Success at Emmanuel College, where Willerton is less than 10 minutes away. They got 500 kids on their waiting list.
Yep.
Lakeside, just down the road, they got 300 kids on the waiting list. Coburn down the road got 250, 300 kids. And then Rockingham, same thing. So for me, I'm just trying to create an environment for these kids that don't have a place to play, a safe environment, a non-political environment. We don't have parent coaches that are looking after the best interests of their kids that are coaching the team. Grace basketball employs coaches, so it's not as profitable as it could be if you had free parent coaches, but I'd rather pay coaches and not make anything and create an environment for these kids that otherwise wouldn't have a place to play. So really excited. This next season we'll have 25% more teams, so really looking forward to that as well.
It's growing rapid, so it's growing rapidly.
Yeah. So, I did have to pivot a few years ago. Really proud of what I achieved in the Girls Academy space.
Oh, hugely,
over 10,000 girls came through there. We mentored the program. The biggest thing that I was most proud of with the Girls Academy program was it was a national program. And there was 143 staff, and there were 143 women working together, hip to hip. And unfortunately, that's not happening right now.
Yeah.
So now you have different organizations fighting each other for
like
support.
Crabs in a bucket.
And sometimes the strategy by the powers to be are to divide and conquer, and that's what they've done in that space, in my opinion. But I've moved on and pivoted to Grace basketball, and really happy, really proud of the thousands of kids that I've coached in less than 3 years and the impact that I'm making in the overall community. But I'm still very, very happy to be working in the indigenous space, and really, really kicking goals and providing employment opportunities, mentoring opportunities, educational opportunities. We're going to fly a group of 40 kids from Marble Bar, Jigalong, Yandiara, Nullagan. We're going to fly them to Perth November 9th through December 1st, take them to a Wildcats game, Adventure World. They'll tour some of the companies in the city, just to see there are opportunities for them, not only through sport, but
but even bringing these experiences back home
to Perth, but then they can still go back in their communities and work. So it's not about always having to leave your community. Now there's a lot of opportunities where you can still work from and still live in your community.
But just get that thinking of that
just
bigger
broaden
picture,
their horizons,
and just say if this is something you want to do,
that's right.
It's here.
That's right. So, we're exposing a lot of kids to that. I'm still pretty busy.
Yeah, I can imagine. And Nan obviously worked at Girls Academy, and she cannot speak highly of you enough. Nana Carey, every time she sees you, it's like me and my pop, we don't exist. She says Ricky Grace, and then she takes off to Ricky, and then me and my pop, we just look at each other and go,
Man,
But she's like this. She told me the reason why she wore number 15 is because of you, and that impact that you had that you still have on people, both young, both old, both middle-aged, both bigger, wider, skinnier, whatever, is something that should not be overlooked, because your impact on the person, on the individual, and the imprint that you leave is something that speaks volumes.
Yep, and your Nan is an amazing lady, though. You know, she's an amazing lady, and she has an aura about her that I admire. You know, she reminds me, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, because she still thinks she's a young lady. You know, but she reminds me of my mom. You know, but you know, she just with how calm and classy and how much of a mentor she is. And I relied on your Nan for a lot of cultural awareness stuff that I was navigating when I was working in that Aboriginal girl space. So I really needed people like your Nan to tell me the best way to go about it from an African American male's point of view. Because my sole role, in my opinion, was to just create the awareness for the need of support that these girls needed. And I was able to do that. You know, when I stopped working in that space, we were turning over $16 million a year. And when I left, you know, the organization I left, they had $1 million in the bank. You know, so I felt like I left it in a good state. But it was because of people like your Nan that I was leaning on and listening to, and they were the ones that were driving the program. I was just knocking on doors, lobbying state government, lobbying federal government, lobbying the corporate partners to support this program that people like your Nan and Nans across the country that I was speaking with, and they were saying, Ricky, this is the way you do it. And then I would go and do what they told.
I'm going to do it. Say no more.
And guess what? It worked. It worked. So, no. But we tend to go back to that, and that's because it's still dear to my heart. But yes, I have moved on, and
like all great point guards, they pivot.
Hey, you know, and that's what sport taught me. And that's what basketball taught me. You know, how to deal with wins, how to deal with losses, and we talked about this earlier in the podcast. Was you know, that's what basketball has taught me, how to deal with haters, how to deal with criticism. You know. So basketball has taught me that. So now, you know, you just got to get up the next day and prepare for another win. And that's just how I've gone about it.
So how do you do that? So before I wrap it up, what now gets you out of bed in the morning? How do you do what you do and continue to do it?
Hey, it ain't easy. You know, sometimes I don't feel like getting out of bed. You know, and but you know, you just gotta get up. You know, I still have a vision. I still have goals. You know, there's still a lot for me to accomplish through the sport of basketball. It's all I know, but I just really enjoy, as I said earlier, helping people. And for me, you know, helping people through basketball. Kerry Stokes is the richest person that I've ever met. You know, he owns Channel 7, the West Australian, Caterpillar. You know, everything. He probably owned this chair. You know. But Kerry told me, he said, Ricky, the only time I've lost money is when I did it for money. He said, if you do the right thing and you give the people what they need and you give them a service that they want at a high service, well, then you'll succeed. So that's all I've tried to ever do. I've just tried to give people what they need, give people what they want, and do it better than anybody else. You know, growing up as an African American in Texas, redneck country, you had to be better. Being even, you lose. You know, when I grew up in a 99.9% black community, but we played in a school district that was the opposite. So all the teams we played were all white, and we were the only black boys that's coming in there playing. And it was so bad that we had to have a black ref and a white ref. It was in the contract. You had to have a black member. You go down there, boop, travel. That's the white ref. White team come down, boop, travel. That's the black ref. It was just, but we knew we had to be 20 points better. If the game is close, we're going to lose. So we learned we have to be better. So if I'm trying out for somebody on a team, when I'm trying out for uni or whatever, being even wasn't good enough. You had to be better, and everybody had to see. You had to make it obvious to be better. So for me, I've always had that mentality that it can't be even. I got to be better, and obviously better. So that's what drives me. That's the mentality that I operate in. Is I have to be better. That's it.
And then, like you said, some days recognizing that, all right, maybe today isn't really my day. Maybe today is a reset day for me. But best believe that the next day you're getting back after it, and you're keeping that mentality of I've got to be better than that. I've got to be better than it.
Well, then I try and figure out why. Why wasn't that day my best day? Why did that person win that contract and I didn't? Or why did that person win that game and I didn't? And I can't win them all, and I don't expect to win them all, but I will learn from that. I will shake you in the hand, look you in the eye, and I'll be thinking next time I'm going to get your ass. I'm going to get your ass.
Congratulations.
I can't wait to see you again. I can't wait. And then that's what gets me out of bed.
Yep.
That's what gets me out of bed is I need to get, I need to catch that joke. And that's what I did as a kid. It was always somebody, I want to be as good as him. And then I'd catch them, and then I go, but now I want that.
Now I want that one, yeah.
And boom, and now I want that.
Now I worry about that one.
And I ain't worried about that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I'm exactly the same with this podcasting stuff. Like, it was all, it's still fun. This is my passion. Like, as we've spoken about, I kind of got the gift of the gab, I think, from my father. And then the basketball training, the media stuff is all kind of come together for this podcast. And then it was just a mental health thing, something to get away, something fun to do, something where I can talk to people like yourself or people that I think that maybe no one's heard of, but I know have done great things. I know is a great person and will add a lot of value. So I want to interview them and get their story out. And then I took a trip, got to see how Nova do their podcast, got to see how Backchat, do their podcast and sit in a couple, and then now it's like, fuck, I want to be better than this guy. All right, they do this really good, but they don't do this, so I'm going to do that. And it's kind of putting those little pieces and, taking in what you want, leaving what you don't want, and bringing that together.
Well, I hope, I wish you all the best with this. As I said, I've never done a podcast.
Before we do wrap it up, I wrap it up with giving flowers. So something, not literal flowers.
Lilies, man, white lilies. I love white lilies, bro.
They didn't have any at the petrol station.
Okay, no worries. Just flower shop straight down.
But I give flowers. So I want to give you your flowers. I think it wouldn't be worth it if I didn't mention your highlights and awards. First of all, is 4-time NBL champion, 1991, 95, 2000. 2-time NBL Grand Final MVP, 4-time All-NBL First Team, All-NBL Second Team, 3-time All-NBL Third Team. Number 15 is retired by the Perth Wildcats, Australian Basketball Hall of Fame, NBL 25th Anniversary Team. Also, what's not on here is now WA Basketball Hall of Fame. First of all, congratulations on that again. Wonderful speech, by the way, just adding that in there. I love what you said about having more black coaches, seeing a black player more than just a black player, as something more, as a person, as what they can contribute to the game. So while I'm rattling on, I just want to say, that got a standing ovation. First in this is just for the Wildcats records, first in games played, first in points, first in assists, first in steals, and first in assists per game 2003, this is in the NBL records, first in assists per game 2004, and also first, this isn't on there but I found this out on my own, first finals MVP of a losing team. I think the only, is that correct?
Yep.
So all that is, Please don't.
Hey,
please don't take.
But you know what my favorite stat is?
Which one's that?
None of those.
Which one's the favorite?
My favorite stat that people don't know
Yeah, why is it? I got a feeling.
is I am second all time Wildcats in blocks.
Yeah.
Second all time. James, the Alabama Slammers #1.
Yeah.
I'm second
Followed by Ricky
all
Grace.
time. And get that out of here.
Because you value defense.
I value defense.
So that's
and help.
as a point guard, second in blocks.
Second in blocks, bro.
That's got to be mentioned.
Smallest man on the team.
So Wikipedia,
Put that in there.
update your information.
Can you throw that in there? I don't know how to do it. I'm not an IT guy. Can you
Whoever, if anyone's
somebody know how to do Wikipedia?
it.
Can you put second all time in blocks in there?
But
then I'll be good.
Yes. In giving flowers, I feel like all those stats have to mention. But when I mean give flowers, I mean to the person that we got to know throughout this through the listeners got to know throughout this podcast. They got a little insight into the person that I know. Someone who is extremely giving, not only of your time, but you're generous as a person. Not only in the contact that you give to people, the consideration, you go that extra effort. But also, you know, I'm thankful in the mentorship that I've got to have from you. I'm thankful that if I'm ever in a time of need or need some advice or need to say, hey, I need some info about this person, I'm getting a bad feeling about it, I call Ricky and you tell me exactly what you think, honestly, good, bad, whatever, however it affects me. But you always leave it with, but you make your decision because, you know, obviously you have your journey. Yep. So, and when I give my flowers to people, I want to give you those and just say thank you for being the person that you are. Thank you for waking up every day trying to be better and trying to change people's lives, because that's exactly what you're doing.
And next time, tell Totem that I want to top like that.
Yeah.
Right? Totem, you looking after your boy? Look after me next time.
No, Rick, thank you so much for joining me today. Bro. Thank you for your time.
All good.
Love
Appreciate
you,
it. Appreciate it. Much love. Much
Much
love.
love.